But the class is specifically on peony, and then all things that go with peonies.
Right.
So otherwise it'd be like a 15-minute class. You came in for more than that. So
is it peony or peony?
I say peonies.
I
You
say
say peonies. You say tomato, I say tomato. At least we're saying it without an English accent, no matter what. So I don't think there's a right or wrong.
No.
So I'll let you cover the peony side.
Okay.
Set the stage,
Sure.
what's going on. So my name's Ken Lane. I'm the owner of the Garden Center. So it's our 58th spring open house, spring opening. And we're kind of famous for a couple things. One, first and foremost, is probably we have all organic, non-GMO vegetables. So we're the only place in the county that sells organic, truly organic vegetable starts. They're seed or non-GMO, non-genetically modified. Herbs, the same way. So no one does herbs really well. And no one does perennials. Perennials are kind of hard to sell. The reason being, annuals, you see your box stores will sell an annual. You put a seed in the ground, it'll be ready for sale in 6 weeks typically. So they can get more turns for the greenhouse, so it's a low price thing. It's pretty to sell a lot of. A perennial almost always is at least 2 years old. So you get to plant the crop last year and have it harvested this year. It's 3, 4, 5 times as old, and it doesn't have as long a growth cycle. So annuals will bloom the whole season. So color, and then it dies in the winter. So you have to replant it. Perennials and permanent, those are key. So they plant it once and you're done. It comes back year after year. But it typically has a bloom cycle of about 6 to 8 weeks. So figure a couple months at most, these flowers are going to bloom over and over. But it does it every year. So you've got to be more of an expert to plant a perennial. It's going to come back. They've been hibernating underground. They're now coming back. So my mums, they're up out of the ground. They're starting to grow. My daffodils, they're 5, 6 years old. They're in bloom. The iris are starting to come up. They're about this tall, and they'll be in bloom in about 2 weeks. So this is a perennial. It hibernates underground, and it comes back fresh every year. Those are harder to design with because you got to have the seasons now coming. You got to work with the season. You need spring bloomers, and summer bloomers, and fall bloomers. So you got to actually design your gardens to be more of a cottage or a country style garden have to plant perennials. But you're not going to find the expertise at a box store. So they don't like to. They're more expensive because they're older, and they're just hard to. You got to be knowledgeable. That's what a garden center does. That's kind of one of our fortes. That's what we do well, because no one else in the county is really doing perennials in a big way. And some of the perennials we'll show off today will be 5, 7 years old. They've been at the farm for a long time before they come in here, because we're bringing in perennials that are old enough to bloom. Online, you can buy some perennials. They'll be starts, but they'll be the plugs that we started with last year. So they're not old enough to bloom this year. You're planting them for next year's bloom. You'll find that there'll be a smaller kind of roots to it. We're planting those, flushing them out, so now they're actually will bloom for you this year. They'll bloom on the racks. I mean, they're blooming now for you in your gardens. So just be aware, you want to really buy, when you're planting a perennial, at least a 2-year root, old plant, or older, if you want color. So with that being said, I think we should start with peonies since that's a topic. So I'll pass the baton to Michelle. Michelle's one of our, she's my right hand. I cannot run the garden center without Michelle. She runs basically everything in color is her responsibility. So I just go, Michelle, you're going to need this many annuals, flowers, vegetables, perennials. She goes, yes, sir, I'll make sure they're beautiful, and she brings them in. And so all this color you're seeing, that's directly her. She takes care of all of that. It's a lot of plants. It's a lot of business. She's directly responsible. She's got folks underneath her that report to her, but I can't think of anyone more knowledgeable or better to teach this class. And Michelle, I'm just her right hand helping her out for today. because I like teaching, I like crowds. You lift up the pot. So she asked, how do you know how old it is? You lift up the pot, you look underneath the legs, and you'll see, I have no idea. Just totally bluffing. She won't know the age of the plants. I can tell you like some of the, I'll tell you a couple of them, how old I think they are, because I know when they were planted and how long we've been going. So I know some of the bigger perennials are 5, 7 years old. Some of the big ones, the Peonies, they're ridiculously old. I really shouldn't sell them, it doesn't make sense, but I love flowers. So I grow myself. I just bring them in because I get bored with flowers. Anyway, with you.
Okay, so with the peonies, there are several different types, and we'll talk so loud. I'm not used to
I'll
having.
turn down just here. Here you go.
Um,
You'll have to yell them.
So most of the peonies that you see here are herbaceous, which is a term that just means that they're rooty, and they have a stalk. The Ito, which Ken we're talking about, are a little bit bigger, and they're a hybrid. And then there's the tree peonies, which we really don't bring in because they don't do really well.
Beats them up.
Yeah.
They just don't do well here.
So you'll see the herbaceous variety and the Itos, which are both great flowers. You'll both get beautiful dinner plate style flowers, old fashioned, very, very fragrant. Great.
Here, show some off.
Great cutting flowers. So I just thought we could walk through the different colors that we have, because right now we're fully stocked. And now is a great time to do it. This one is the, and then they put words that I can't pronounce. Caita. It's a really pretty pink one.
I say Cayenta. You say Cayenta. You got funny folks online. There you go. You can see that color. There you go. We're talking about peonies right there.
Get a peony to fit your garden, whatever colors you like. If you like the light pinks or the dark pinks, the reds, the yellows. Yellow's probably the most rare that we sell. I actually brought a yellow one from Colorado. I dug it up because I worked really hard to get this yellow peony, and I brought it here with me, and it's doing well. This one's Happy Returns, and it's a coral color with many Happy Returns. Lisa and I both thought it was a rebloomer, but it's not. I was disappointed in their name.
Don't go by the name.
Don't go by the name.
What do you mean rebloomer?
We did some plants that are reblooming, like Stella Dior daylily. It blooms over and over and over. It continuously blooms.
Much like a rose. Some roses are single bloom. They bloom once in the spring and then they're just green. We try to bring in roses that flush bloom, they take a rest, and they'll set a whole other set of flowers that kind of pulsate colors. That's a repeat blooming. And some varieties will repeat bloom. Most peonies are, it's pretty rare for a peony to do that. Most of them are a traditional perennial type of plant.
Yeah.
Flush once, you're done.
And the nice thing about peonies is that once they do bloom, you still have this full green shrub-like perennial. You know, it's going to fill a good 3-foot space. So it'll fill that spot. It adds color, it adds background to your garden. So it's very versatile.
I designed peonies into the garden much like a fern. So because the foliage looks like a fern,
Exactly.
or fern foliage, but it takes sun like a fern would never take. And so the flowers are almost a bonus in my garden. So that's a great thing, but I'm planting for the foliage, and the fragrance and flowers are just frosty.
Exactly.
So what are these called?
These are buds.
Eyes or buds?
Buds.
Buds, really? I thought they were eyes.
I
See,
mean,
I'm telling
I would
you.
imagine they could be either or. Go back to tomato or tomato.
Yeah.
But don't take that one too far.
White.
This one's Jan Levian. It's a white, cream color.
So this is truly a hard sell. This is a bucket of dirt
Yes.
with little tiny
Well,
eyes.
usually when we come bring them in this time of year, you don't even get that. It's
Yeah.
just a bucket of dirt. And people
Yeah.
say, why am I buying that? And then I have to dig and I find the little things and it's like, this is why I'm buying it.
Also, peonies, people collect peonies much like they do roses. And so if you see them and you like it, grab it, because it won't be here the next weekend, or even a couple days later. The crop rotations go fast, and there's no more behind them. So it's not like the greenhouse's fields full of this type of peony. And this is the time when you really want to plant them, is when they're like this. So if you wait till they're blossom, many times they'll shed the flower as they go into stress. You really want to put them in the ground before they bloom, so they're erupting the flower in your garden, rather than here at the garden center.
Exactly.
So this is a good way to buy it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
This is like a 3-year-old plant. Oh yeah, it'll for sure bloom. Nice, big. This is a traditional English peony. It's going to get about this big around, kind of ball shaped. I've noticed too, I grew these down the driveway in Skull Valley. It's a big property with elk, deer, javelina. Things were just roaming around the farm, the orchards, and they left my peonies alone. So I would almost call them
Resistant.
almost call them proof. I'd almost go that far. It's been such good luck. It makes me nervous. We say definitely resistant to animal digesting the plant. They're really tough. Okay?
This is another light pink, and really full of petals. So this one's a really pretty one. And I just want to piggyback on what Ken said, is that buy them while you can. This set of peonies that came in, I have never heard of most of these varieties. They're brand new. So I don't know if they're going to last long. So if you like this particular one, buy it now, because it might not be here next time.
I can also say that the economy is struggling and doing some weird stuff. We belong to a group of garden centers, there's about 200 garden centers. We share our financials every week. You know exactly what they sold, which plants they sold, which departments would do well. And every single garden center this last week, all of them up 20, 30, 40, 50%. The Northeast, I thought would be crushed, because that's where the buyers kind of started out. No, they have record territories. So what that means is there'll be more pressure on crops that are there. They'll disappear faster if they keep going that. They still trim that way. I was hoping that it would soften up. I'd get more of their plants into my place, but that's not going to work out that way. I don't think. So, yeah.
This one's called Buckeye Bell. It's more of a unique one. It's kind of a coppery red. And the flowers are just a little bit smaller, almost the size of a tennis ball, but really pretty.
It almost looks like a David Austin rose or
Almost,
something.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
yeah.
Here, I'll show it to the folks online so you can take a look. There you go. You see, but you see it's just a bucket. These are buds, not eyes, is what I've been telling, what I'm told.
Michelle said.
Michelle said it. She knows. More than I do. Yeah.
So this is the yellow one. This isn't the same one as mine, but this is Duchess de Lorraine. This is an Ito, which, like I said, it means that they're going to get a little bit bigger. Instead of that 3-foot knee-high, they're going to be a little bit taller. The other thing I've noticed, don't they come up? The stalks actually don't die all the way to the ground. They stay a little bit green in there, and then they'll grow a little bit taller, which is why they get a little bit taller on us.
They actually graft a English peony onto a tree peony root. And so what you get is a English peony on steroids, literally. So the flowers will be this big instead of the traditional English. And the bush, even the foliage, will be up. So I grow this exact variety in a big oxblood red pot. So it's about the same, up this tall with the front door. And I put this in there mainly for the foliage. And look how soft it is. It just welcomes you. You want to brush up against it. And I plant little flowers around it, like pansies are planted right now. But when it blooms, the fragrance on these Itos is like sprinkle fairy dust on this equals more fragrance. And these I think, it's probably because it's a bigger flower. But they are noticeably more fragrant. It might be because I have it in the pot, it's just up where I can enjoy it more. But it's magnificent. Yeah, it gets, mine get, even in a pot, so in the ground will be a little bit bigger. It's at every bit of it is 3 feet across, and every bit of 3 feet or more high. Just this beautiful structure. Mine does actually die back to the ground. So mine looks exactly like this right now in my pot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it just like that.
Yeah, mine do too. Except I do have a few stalks that I didn't cut them down fast
Oh,
enough.
really?
So I was afraid to, so I just left them.
And they're coming back?
They're coming back.
You live out in Dewey. That's not fair.
It's only 3 or 4 degrees. It's
Yeah.
not that big a deal.
Okay.
Here's our email list. So you'll get a copy of this class. So I'll give it to you and we'll just pass it around. This is private. We don't send it out to anybody else. This is just for us.
Now,
Just
I'm on an email list already.
if you're already on it,
Well, I get,
No, put it on again because
yeah, because
we'll send you just
oh, just that.
the resources of this class.
Yes, okay.
Only this group. One more reason that you should come to the garden center instead of just watching online, but we can get it to you too. I'll try
Yeah.
to post that link.
If people send us their email in the comments,
Gotcha.
then we'll send them the same material that people get that are actually here.
So in case that didn't go to the microphone there, I'll see it from here just so they can make sure they heard that. If you put the email in the comments, we'll make sure you get a copy of this as well. So it'll be, anyway, I've got a handout on this. Just send it to you.
this is oak trees.
Chagias. You can say whatever you want. No one's gonna bluff. You can just bluff.
But it's kind of a creamy pink. And this is also an Ito.
Ito is Japanese, actually. Japanese are very famous gardeners. And they're the ones that sort of grafted some of these. They came up with the original, and now it's expanded past that. So
This one's called Coral Louise. Really pretty light pink and with a red eye.
it's a bucket of dirt with some leaves coming out.
Oh, it is, but it will be. You gotta see the future.
Yeah. The secret too, I noticed with peonies, so I've planted many of them. When you're planting them, peonies have a very fleshy root to them. And if you're in a real heavy clay soil, let's say up in the valley areas, where the soil just doesn't work very well, that root can rot or can suffer some. So make sure that you have the soil drained. If you want to test it before you plant, dig the hole, fill it with water. If that water is still, if there's any water left in that planting hole at the end of the day,
Don't plant.
don't plant. It'll just rot. You're going to pick an $80 plant, sit in there and watch it slowly rot over the season. Most painful thing ever. I know, I've lived it. That's why I'm planting my Ito in a pot now. So I tried one. I planted at the base of my raised beds. I should have planted the raised bed, but I didn't. I want it here because that's where I want it. You know, gardeners, you don't tell a gardener where they can or cannot plant. You just figure it out. Well, it died. So I went, okay, I really want one of these. Planted a container. It's been growing there for like 5 years. It's beautiful every single year.
Now, what kind of container? Ceramic? Does it matter?
For me, well, if you planted a big one, this is a big root, this is a big plant. Probably at least 18 inch to 20 inch, something like that size. Wide would be minimal. I'd plant this. Probably an English peony, you could go smaller. My personal experience, and I've got over 50 pots. I think we have 53 containers in the backyard and front yard. And some trees, little flowers, just all different sizes. I have the best luck with ceramics or clay pots because I tend to, in spring, the plastics tend to overwater, spring and fall. They don't breathe, and so I tend to overwater things. In the summer, they're great. I don't like wood. I was planting wood barrels, but 2, 3, 4 years in, you pick it up and the bottom just drops out from underneath because the bottom will rot out. The sides look good. You try to go work with it, it just goes apart on you. So I've gone to ceramics, and I've been collecting them over the decades. That's why we have so many. And some fancy glazed things that we use. One thing on that, don't stay away from the terracotta color. the English, well, not English, it's really German and Italian clay, traditional red clay that your grandparents grew in, that will not winter over here. It just cracks, flakes. The freeze and thaw cycle of our spring and fall tends to wreaks havoc on them. The other one is stay away from Mexican clay. I wish we could use them up here. That's the one with the looks like clay, but it's got the charred sides. It's very southwestern. It's truly Mexican clay, but it's bad clay, and then they hard fire them. They don't use kilns; they actually use a fire pit, and that's where they get that characteristic to it. So there's no consistency to the clay's hardness, and they break. I've literally seen them melt in the rain. I used to try to sell them because I like them so much. I just stopped selling those because there's so many damage. So I've gone to a whole series of either Vietnamese or Chinese clays that are good clay. They're high, the kiln, high fired. So now you got a clay that won't crack and freeze, break, or flake. And you don't overwater it in spring and fall. If you're gonna throw something year round in that, I would say go that direction. If you're just planting for the spring, for the growing season, that's it. You're gonna store them in your shed or garage. Doesn't matter. Pick whatever you want. That's just my personal experience. So good question.
We're gonna go into that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's spoiling your thunder.
No, as soon as we finish show and tell, we'll
Okay.
go into that.
Okay.
I think that this is the last one.
Last peony.
This is a CanarianBrilliance. It's another yellow one. Not quite as many petals, but it has that red inside there, so it's really pretty as well.
You never see yellow in peonies. It's just so
It's
rare.
very
You
rare.
just don't see it. Yeah, well, I thought you talked about this one.
I did.
Chocolate, yeah.
So, talking about planting, like Tim said, they do not like to sit in water, so they need very, very well drained soil. So whether you have sandy soil, heavy clay, rocks, porous, whatever, we need to add that soil amendment. So the mulch, premium mulch, will help in all three situations. So if you have sandy soil, you need mulch. If you have clay, you need mulch. If you have rocks, you need mulch. It does a little bit different things for each type of soil, but it's going to break that up, let it drain better, and you'll have a healthy peony. When you plant, these are the buds or eyes. You got to be careful when you plant these. Being as they're already in the bucket, Monrovia has helped you with that because they're already at the right depth. But if you get them online, you want to be really careful where you put these, because if they're too deep, they're not going to bloom for you. Or if they're too shallow, they're not going to bloom for you. So you really want them, if you're taking one of these home, you're going to put the dirt even with the dirt that's on the outside, so they're even. And mix 2/3 natural soil, 1/3 mulch is how we tell you to plant everything here. So it shouldn't settle because the ground is hard. If you have a spot that's really soft, if you go too deep, you definitely want to pack that down so it doesn't. If you know your place settles a little bit, you'd better go high and kind of mound it up opposed for it to settle.
With peony, it's best not to dig a deep hole. You want to dig a shallow hole. If anything, you want this. Here's your garden soil. The top of this root ball? This should be at the top of your soil, not below. Don't do what Phoenix does and try to rain harvest or have it to dip or divot. You want this to be at garden level, which is pretty easy. Most of these are going into flowery kind of beds. Pretty easy to do. Or even slightly, if this is your garden soil, have it slightly above is good. Ensures it'll breathe, and you just mound that soil up just ever so slightly from the ground, and it will ensure that it breathes. This is a very drought-hardy plant. It does not like to be overwatered. It likes to go dry in between waterings. I treat my peony much like I treat a tree or a shrub out in the yard. I have it on that same water cycle. I don't water it like a flower or a vegetable garden kind of thing. So so all I heard from that was, you need mulch,
You need mulch.
no matter your soil, which is, this is true.
Right. The other thing that you're going to do when you plant the superphosphate helps with your blooming. It also will help with the roots. This will ensure that you get spectacular flowers.
Is that done every year?
Yeah. And after you plant it, you'll do this in the fall. Every fall, if you give it a dose of superphosphate, just like your irises and your tulips and all that stuff, hit it in the fall and you'll be good to go.
Right, this.
All-purpose fertilizer. Also, when you plant, it's a slow-release fertilizer, so it's going to work its way down. It'll add that sulfur to lower our pH. So both of these things, you need it to plant. Lastly, when you water it in, use the root and grow. That'll help get the hair roots going. It'll also help with the
They can't see that label. There you go.
the plant stress.
Root and grow keeps them from
Not that
stressing out.
people have too much because they're just kind of now starting to leaf out. But it's a great product. You're going to use it every 2 weeks for 6 weeks time period, and then you're good to go. Unless
So
it
can I
just-
tell them what I do? So this is every garden, because you grow peony, I grow peony.
Yeah.
So, this is the magic that makes everything bloom. So you should be fertilizing everything in the yard right now with this, all-purpose planted.
Okay, so I have peonies that are already planted, so that's what I use.
Yes, and she's got peonies that are already planted, for those of you online. Just use this, I'll use this on everything in the spring, especially things that bloom, or you want a fragrance from. The main ingredient in this is cottonseed meal. Cottonseed meal breaks down and lowers the pH, so it makes it more acidic, it brings a fragrance. It's a great nitrogen source, phosphorus. There's a lot. This is the steak and potatoes of plant foods. This is what's going to give it the long haul. When I think of superphosphate, I usually get one big bag of this every season. I'll start now. And this is kind of the Snickers bar. If you think of, you want to juice it up real quick, you just want to get things blooming. I really focus on peonies, yes, but I really focus on repeat blooming lilacs, salvias, autumn sage, that red flower comes over and over and over. Give it some of this. As soon as it starts blooming, give it a little handful, it will come right back in bloom for you. Just like that. So throughout the year, at least 2 weeks before a party, so Mother's Day, we'll have everyone over, no matter what happens. The whole family's coming up to our house, and we have a big backyard barbecue. The gardens have to be stunning. I mean, Harold Waters is coming. He's the founder of the garden center. He's the ultimate gardener. The pressure's on. And so I want to make sure they look good. So 2 weeks prior, I'll kind of clean up and stuff. I'll fertilize everything. I'll give it some of this, just to ensure that things are at maximum flower at that point. So, and I'll do that throughout the year. Some gardeners online will tell you got to work this in and make it really complicated. I find if I just get some on the plant regularly, it blooms better for me. And I use this more regularly than this. So this is your regular foods. I'll use this now, right before the monsoon season, July 4th. And then I'll use it again in the fall. Now, I only really use it 3 times a year. This I'm using once a month or whenever I feel like it. I just kind of sprinkle it around. And it really is a game changer for things that bloom. Tomatoes, things that fruit, really is a game changer. Now give us some of this. So repeat the question just so folks are not hearing.
Her question was when can you plant peonies? Now is a great time to get them in. When they're like this, they get used to being in your soil. They get time to get roots out. So when they start pushing that new growth, the buds will pop and they'll be ready to go in there.
Mine went right through that snow yesterday. I mean, I had 8 inches of snow at the house. It was like it was nothing. I had to be careful when I swept them off a little bit not to break. I didn't want to break anything. So daffodils came through fine. So they're used to growing. They like mountain gardens. They're used to our climate. No worries at all. No.
I would say if you hear that we're going to get a heavy heavy snow and you've got these already pushing, you might throw a bucket over them just to protect them from getting squashed or broken. But that's with everything in New York. Her question is when do you cut peonies back? And you do that in the fall. Actually, wait until the first frost. They'll die back, and you can just cut them off at that point.
Wait till they're dead. They'll look dead, you'll know.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of
Yeah,
these. Whack 'em off.
and they're one you can just cut them all the way down to the ground. I will say that once the flowers finish blooming, you do want to cut those off because it'll create that seed pod and that takes energy from the roots, and you just want that green foliage to be lush and green for the rest of the year because that's how the plant stores its energy, so it'll bloom next year.
They won't regrow.
No, peonies do not bloom.
Once and done. That's why when I design indoor garden, I'm designing them like I would design this beautiful shrub or fern kind of. I'm planting with foliage, flowers, and they're just pretty plants. I mean, even right now, that's beautiful. That's inspirational. I feel like I just can't wait till the garden season happens. Yeah.
So I'm creating a whole new flower bed.
Yep.
I don't have any soil there at all yet.
Okay.
So how would I amend anything, or would I use a mulch, all mulch, or?
So the question was flower beds, specifically flower beds. So we're going to help you with
All
flower
these
beds.
are gonna be peonies.
Perfect, great. So how do you get the soil ready for that? So for you folks online, so what the book says, let's quote the book. You put a 2 to 3 inch layer of organic material, mulch. Probably for you, stay away from manure. Because some flowers, the manure, there's some enzymes that happen, it will eat some of the roots away. So especially bulbs, iris, daffodils, ranunculus, all these, some of your peonies, I'd be afraid, the manures will react to them. Mulch will not do that, or compost. So a 2 to 3 inch layer, I would sprinkle some of the all-purpose plant food on top of the mulch. And I would just do all 3 steps at the same time. I get a bag of this, put it on there. I would turn them into 1 shovel's depth, about 8 inches. Turn it all under, start planting peonies. You're ready to go, just like that. So I would, while I'm doing the soil, I'd make sure it drains, do some gardener stuff, kind of analyze what do I feel like the dirt's doing. It's really hard, I might add a little bit more. Composted premium mulch. If it's looking pretty rich, I might go a little less. That's where the 2 to 3 inch layer there's some fudge factor. You get to decide how you want to do that. So that's pretty much it. Ready to go.
And when you're picking your site, you want to pick a site that gets at least 6 hours of sunshine.
That's good.
The Itos can use a little bit of afternoon shade, but if it's 4 hours, that's okay. 4 hours of shade is perfect for them.
Mine's on the south side in a pot against a wall.
Mine's full
It
west.
should not grow there, but it's so happy. I mean, it's so pretty. I do notice when they have a little bit of shade, they bloom longer though. So flowers stay on them longer if you get just a little edge. And that's where if you plant more than one together, the plants actually help each other to bloom and prosper better. Plants actually have a way of symbiotically they do. Okay?
Question. I get asked a lot of times, why do my peonies not bloom? There are several reasons why they do not bloom.
Right here.
Lack of fertilizer, being planted at the wrong depth, or a late frost can do it as well. So there are many factors in that. So when I hear that, it's like, well, and we ask you questions, and a lot of you don't like our answers, but it's just nature. There are 3 reasons why they won't bloom. Sometimes you'll get a bud that just kind of turns brown. It's a blight that can happen, and again, it's because we were too wet, or they didn't get enough food to sustain the bud, or thrip, our favorite pest
Nemesis, or
of
insect.
Because they go in and they'll eat the bud itself, and then it just kind of turns brown and dies. So there are several reasons why your buds will turn brown.
Number one reason I find just talking to customers is for lilacs, roses, peonies. Certain plants are more prone to bloom for a couple of years and then just stop blooming. Most of the time it's food. We don't fertilize enough. Especially if it's in a hot area where you're watering a lot. You're minted that soil so heavily, you got it just perfect. Now it's 2 years in, it's used all that mulch, all the food, all the things that were there, the plants use that up. And now the plant is left starving, and a starving plant will not bloom, it won't fruit, it won't perform for you. It'll grow and have foliage, but it takes a lot of energy to put a flower on that big. It takes quite a bit of energy to pull that off. And so if you refertilize,
So
that's
would
where the
that-
fall feeding is the
yeah,
most important feeding.
Exactly, and would that be where you would divide after 3 or 4 years?
You could be, although I've never divided a peony.
In Colorado, we did it all the time.
Yeah.
Just because they get so big and there's just so much and then they'd stop blooming and then we do it. But-
So describe how to divide a peony.
So if you're going to divide, you want to end
That
up,
looks pretty nice.
yeah. So you're going to do this late fall when it probably won't be dyed back. It won't have dyed back yet, but you will have, it'll be a smaller plant. You're basically going to just dig the whole thing up. Have a sharp knife because you're going to separate this and you're just going to cut it apart. Get all the soil off so you just have the root, and then just take a sharp knife and just slice it in half. Make sure that you're keeping at least 3 or 4 of the nodes. If you cut it too small, you'll never have a healthy plant. So you want to keep a nice set of buds going when you go to divide.
Consider each stalk a bud.
Yes, each stalk is going to be a bud because you'll notice this one, it looks like this, but you can see where this has peeled away and then this has come up. So it starts out with a nice tight tip and then it opens up.
It's kind of like a potato. When you get all done, it's kind of soft, fleshy. Pull it out, you can hose it off, whatever. Take the best eyes and just divide right there. There's no right or wrong. Have you let yours dry out before you replant them?
No,
Or do you
I
put them right back
pop
in the
them right
ground?
in the ground.
There you go.
And
That works.
then, again, you're going to remulch, you're going to add the fertilizer, the superphosphate, and say, grow.
I would say the root and grow when you do that
Yeah.
is critical, because that's like open heart surgery. You're taking this thing out of the ground, it's now taking all the dirt off, slicing, dicing, putting
Which
it
is
back
why
in the
you
ground
don't do
around. This is a composted tea that we make. You only find it in Pure Waters, but it's an organic that we seep some organics, and then it helps pour that around. That it does 2 things. One, helps stabilize the root so it wants to root more. It also feeds the mycorrhizal fungi that help tickle the feet of the plant so it wants to grow, wants to actually, it goes, oh, the soil's healthy, I'm going to grow here. And so it stabilizes the plant much, much faster than just water alone.
Another question I've always been asked is, do you need to support your peonies?
Do you need to support your peonies?
I do.
No?
Sometimes when the flowers get so big, that's a good time. You want to support them before that bud opens up. So, if you notice you have a ton of buds, you'll want to either put a couple stakes and then tie a twine around it just to hold them up. With our winds that blow through here, they can fall down really, really quickly. If they get wet, that'll cause them to fall over too.
Hail in the summer. They're done blooming by then. Hail, you get those afternoon storms, it can really be ferocious. It can sometimes beat up the foliage. Helps, if they're tied together, it kind of helps protect them. If you're in the wind, you need to stake them or just protect them somehow. They make peony rings. Sometimes you can buy that will, just like a little easy ring set.
An old tomato cage works great.
Tomato cage works fine. Where it's windy, you do that. I've got some protected areas in my courtyard. I've got some peonies, I don't stake them.
Yeah.
But there I've got some walls, and there's not this tunnel effect of wind that just beats on them. So judge your gardens and see how they are, and you can decide. Also, if you've got more flowers, they protect themselves. They're just out there by themselves. They'll be more prone to be, the wind will get to them. So make a judgment call.
Yeah. Another question I always get is when to cut a peony when they're blooming, and it's just like every other flower. If you do things in the morning, you'll get more fragrance out of them than the late afternoon. So it's just like picking vegetables and all that stuff that you do in the garden. You want to do it early in the morning as opposed to later.
Icho peonies have really big flowers. Get this beautiful crystal bowl, float some water in it, and you just kind of cut it and float it in the water. It's beautiful. Mostly they'll take the stems and put them in the bottom. These or balls? I don't know.
We have such questions.
How much, how often do you water them?
Her question was, how often do you water? I would say they're just like a regular shrub. So when they're first planted, depending on your soil and where you're at, once or twice a week, just depending on how fast you dry out. I always start with twice a week, and on that second day, check and see if you need to water. If it's still moist, don't worry about it and keep it at once a week.
If in doubt, let it dry out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially peonies.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to kill it, it'll be from overwater. I'll guarantee you. The root will actually just rot. And then the symptoms are the leaves start to dry out, they turn a little yellow, get kind of weepy. That's because the roots, there aren't as many roots. So the roots are literally rotting off, so they can't take up the water enough. So it looks like you'd swear it was from underwatering, but it's from over, it's just the opposite. The symptoms are the same though. So, but peony specific, if in doubt, leave it out.
Yeah. And then the last question that I always get is, there are ants all over my peonies. What do I do? This is a natural process. That they secrete this sweet, sticky stuff when they pop open, and the ants are just attracted to it. Do you need ants for them to open up? You do not. It's a myth. It's a wives' tale. Once your peony starts to really get it starts to open, you'll see the ants there. Mm-hmm.
Almost guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not to worry. Don't. Unless you're going to bring them indoors,
Right.
then wash them off. I don't hate it.
Usually I would
Yeah.
fall out, but every once in a
Remember
while.
one time I harvested the broccoli. Oh, that fresh broccoli. Go inside, cook it up, put it in the steamer, and aphids start coming up. Ooh, I should have washed it beforehand. Dang it. And I knew better. It's just it's gardening. It's organic.
I had a worm. It's like,
No, we won't share
We
our
won't share that.
garden horror stories, but we all have some.
I do.
Every time. So with that, I think we're an hour,
Okay.
we're an hour and 12 minutes in. So
Oh, wow.
I think we'll,
I didn't think it would go that
we
long.
did good.
We did good. Yay.
Did good, yeah, there we go. Oh, we're not supposed to touch.
Oh.
Here, here, elbow. Yeah. We'll hang out with questions. We thank you for tuning in online.
Yes, absolutely.
Appreciate that. Come and visit us throughout the week. We're planning two things I think we're going to try to push. The team just got together. We're going to start a new personal shopper program where you can call in, make an appointment one-on-one so you can shop individually. So we're doing that. And secondly, we're going to just really push the design service. We'll come out to your backyard and help you design. Look for those. They'll be coming up very shortly. It's in response to trying to space the customer base out, that kind of stuff. And I think it's really going to help you out in your gardens, have more expertise. So look for those coming your way. All right, thank you. I'll let you clap to my consultant, Michelle,